Staying local today, only 11 minutes from the apartment, but it is an early 7:30 a.m. call time. Today is a very simple corporate day, but it could run long, potentially 14 hours. As always, I like to get completely prepped the day before, so everything was packed. All of the camera settings were dialed in because I had to ask that beforehand. And that way when we show up, this is location 1, I don't have to spend time doing small, minute things that eat up seconds on set. Okay, interview is coming in shortly. These are not my lights, but we get to use them. And I've never used these before. So this is an extremely cool carrying case that's also charges each light because there's contacts at the bottom. So pretty cool, and I think these lights are actually like really expensive. So we're gonna they're RGB, so we're gonna use a blue hue to just go up the wall and probably use 3 of them. Now, we tested this earlier and it wasn't so bright. Now it's extremely bright. So this isn't doing as much. So I might have to flag that off. My producer is standing in, so this setup is good to go. And then for the rest of the day, I just follow him around, and whenever he points to something, I get good coverage of it. This is location number 2, filming this panel. It's a 90-minute speech, so this will be locked off. And I actually rented another camera because I need to do B-roll while this is rolling. So I rented the A7 IV and a 24-105, and this will be on my gimbal the whole time. And potentially I might switch this 105 onto this lens and put the new one on the gimbal. So I kind of have a visual aisle from the camera to the panel, but mostly I'm here because of there's an outlet right here. And while these bricks can run for 3 hours, 3.5, he just wants me plugged in, so that's fine. And since we are doing a complete 1080p day, my 128 gigabytes cards are giving me massive amounts of data. So we're in XAVC L, and then the 50 megabytes per second data rate. Originally, the scope of this project was 3 cameras. So it would be 1 gimbal, 1 here for the interview, and then 1 downstairs for the panel. But since the panel is only happening once, I said we can just mark off where we want our interview here, make sure it looks good, bring the camera downstairs for the panel, shoot that, and then bring it right back in here, and that way we don't have to pay for a 3rd camera. So they accepted it, and right now I need to get the RS3 Pro going, and yes, put the new lens on this. So looking good. That's the kind of balance I want. The best thing you can grab when people are arriving is handshakes. Dang it, I wish I got that. All right, all these people are gonna switch from table to table, so I'm putting this into S&Q, 2 frames into 30 frames with a 360-degree shutter, so it'll be nice and blurry. So this is what our interviewee sees. That's gonna be the person asking questions. Softbox, a shotgun mic, and that's the working frame right there. Actually, I'm not going to flag this off. I was, but it does give a nice gradient across the wall. It looks like it's on purpose.
We're probably carrying one now.
This job came from Production Hub, and I was able to ask my producer, how did you find me? Because this was not a job posting like normal that my info gets matched to. This was him seeking out my information and then contacting me personally via email. So he said he liked to work with individuals rather than production companies, because when he has a phone call with someone discussing the project, he wants to know that that is the same person who's going to show up on set, not another employee or a subcontractor or a B shooter. So it's just good to see how different people who have hiring potential use Production Hub. Some people want a full production house, and then other times they want a single shooter. All of today will be happening inside, no exterior events, and we are getting ready for the panel discussion that is about to happen. So each panelist will have a microphone, or they'll be switching, and then all of that audio is actually internally routed through the house into this XLR out, and it's going to an external recorder, which we discussed beforehand on the pre-production call. It's very important to think of these things and clearly communicate them before, so that on the day of you can just plug in. Now, this external recorder was over in the corner of the house, whereas my camera was in the middle, and I would have liked to have gone directly fed into my camera, but that's how we wanted to do it, so that's what we did. And then I put the 24 to 105 on this camera just to get a little bit more reach out of it, and it was locked off. So while that sits there, they also had attendee questions, audience questions. So for that, I would sit somewhere where I could quickly find the audience member who was talking, and then I would go on my gimbal, and I was using the 24 to 70. So that allowed me to use the 24 end of the lens in case I got close, and if I couldn't get close, I could actually still zoom in to 70 mil, and that weight shift didn't have an issue with this gimbal, having that weight now further. There was no micro jitters or anything. The DJI RS3 Pro was able to handle it, no problem. All right, meals were provided in the contract, but unfortunately the catering team put everything away before we could get to it. So doing a quick Chick-fil-A run. For those of you guys who are wanting to get into corporate work, it's really those three things. You just need a camera, and it doesn't even have to be a good camera, a good light, and a good microphone. So this whole middle piece can be switched out for a lavalier mic, and that way you only have to bring two things to the set. But as long as you have a soft, flattering light, it could even be just one single fixture, you can get away with a decent image. And you can add on to it. So you can have a hair light, a splash on the wall, some negative fill, just anything to kind of polish it. But at the root of it, that's really all you need for corporate work. Of course, you can have all the gear, but if you don't have the connections or the network, you're not going anywhere to shoot. No one's hiring you. So it's very important to think of, if I'm investing in gear, I need to be investing in my network or in my client outreach, and because one doesn't work without the other. What I like about corporate work is I can do everything as a solo operator. I don't need a crew. But if the budget allows, I can bring in a crew. I could bring in an assistant, or if the sound design is going to be difficult or the location, I can bring in a sound guy, and you can build it up level by level. But at the root of it, you can do most corporate work with a single camera and a very affordable lighting setup. I saw a photography session happening outside, and I just love it when you get to watch people doing what they love to do. She left the 9-to-5, or maybe never had a 9-to-5 like me, and if you just start digging yourself into this freelancer or contractor role, it starts to work out eventually. I love this camera. It makes my life easier. During the interview, I always like to hide my eyes behind the monitor because it can be very distracting for the interviewee if they see someone looking at them out of the side of their eye. But one thing that I had never seen anyone do before is at the end of the interview, my producer asked the interviewee to say the word "and" in 3 different inflections. And I had never thought of how clever that could be to use as glue during the edit process. Started the day at sunrise, ending it at sunset. Since I shot in the lowest codec possible on my camera, this is going to take about 8 minutes to upload to Dropbox. My ending question is most of your work local or do you travel, or what's the ratio? Remember, you can always schedule a consultation call. My email's in the description, and the next YouTube video I do is going to be all about the different income streams from having a YouTube channel.